up, these sessions are available again. EYPtraining.online/replay. They're on there, or on the Facebook group. They'll be available until Monday. So there'll be a couple more live sessions tonight and then available then. So I'll introduce Christina now and get this started because she's the star of the show. Here we go. This is being recorded, in case you didn't realise. So welcome back, everyone, for this session. This is a session, again, looking at sort of how to use embodied coaching for anything that comes up. This is going to be with Christina, so I'll intro her in a sec, but just to give you a bit of stuff, I'm tech hosting, so if you have any problems, feel free to private message me. Feel free to share this Zoom link with any friends who may benefit as well, whether they're facilitators of some sort and would like to see it. Share the replay page as well, or if there's someone who might benefit from getting a demo coaching session in front of everyone. On that note, be mindful that this is recorded and live streamed, so if you do volunteer, make sure that you're self-aware of that, essentially, that it will be seen publicly. It's not, normally we're big around confidentiality with coaching, but obviously in front of people, it's not so confidential. So any stuff, if you can have your cameras on, that's very welcomed. It provides Christina feedback as she's doing stuff to see how people are. And it also gives a little bit of safety around if something's sort of going wrong. At least you can sort of see how people are doing as well if something's a little bit challenging. So this will be the last little session for now. Then there's going to be a gap and there'll be a few more sessions afterwards. However, if you sort of drop out or want to catch this later, you can see it on the replays, see it on Facebook, YouTube, anywhere else. If you do volunteer for a coaching session, Christina will probably emphasize this again, but on a scale of 1 to 10 for challenges, kind of like mid-range, like a 4, maybe a 5. They're only short sessions and it's not an extended relationship. So obviously you don't want to go into something like crazy deep and deconstruct your entire life in front of all these people either. So if you are doing it, feel free to do that. Also, if you're joining in along with it, also do take care of yourself and resource yourself, and don't do anything that challenges you too much, particularly if you're in a time right now that you're not at your best. So Christina, you've heard her before, but hopefully now you can hear about her again. She's an embodiment coach. She's a somatic educator. She guides people towards authentic expression and empowered relationships. She's actually doing a relationships and intimacy product coming up in about a month. We're going to do a whole event with Christina on it. So isn't that awesome? Anyway, she's also an Aikido black belt. She's a passionate dancer. She has a background in social sciences. She's an assistant she's a trainer, I think, now on the embodied facilitator course. So her knowledge sort of spans a whole heap of different fields. So welcome, Christina, and I'll let you take things away.
Thank you, Steve. I remained a little in the background in the previous session, and again, it's a fantastic reminder sometimes to see Mark coach. While he has this very particular approach, it's really it illustrates how quickly we can gain insights looking at and including the body in the process, and that's been also my fascination, or my main draw to this work. So I'd like to start off this session in particular with a brief Q&A, because I think that most of you have probably attended a few sessions. And I wonder if there are any burning questions that you have about either the approach to working somatically or working with the body, the embodiment approach, or in particular about the coaching, or maybe even about the EYP system and how that can be brought into yoga or coaching for that matter. Because I know that we might not get to a lot of questions otherwise, and maybe just give that a little bit of space. Which ties into like basically what brought you here as well. And if this is not the first session that you're watching, then yeah, what's still unanswered for you? Okay, oh, we already got a really lovely one. A lovely question. How to handle neediness. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'd actually be happy to also work with that in a demo session if you would like to work with that here, Vanda. And if not here, I don't know if you intend to work with that here. Otherwise, I can just speak to that as well. But how do I know which poses to suggest? Oftentimes there is a sort of sense, because a lot of the poses that we used, first of all, the EYP is in the Embodied Yoga Principles is a system of 26 poses. And they might have 1 or 2 variations within that, but so there's a list of 26 poses that exist. And they also come in pairs sometimes. Some of them have like polar opposite qualities. So depending on what the topic of a coaching session, for instance, is, you might have the case of, I don't know, somebody not being able to, or like feeling quite close or introvert. So maybe that is a very clear indicator to then go into the outward being seen pose. So sometimes choosing the opposite and working with these opposite poses is one clear guideline. Then some of them are literally titled the way that, you know, the topic that arises. We have vulnerability pose, for instance. So if you struggle with vulnerability, that might be one to start off with. And then there's just a learning process. The longer I work using these poses as well, the more clarity I have with which ones work well together, which ones maybe to draw in that might complement each other. Or if I teach being seen, then maybe I'll combine it with other elements as well. And some of the poses have similar essences, like for instance, the warrior entering in. I mean, they're divided into yin and yang as well, which means there's already some element of receptivity versus activity, or like the outward more driving versus the maybe softening. So in your embodiment itself, you might perceive that tendency. So if I work with somebody that has very strong like yang qualities, then I might retreat back to suggesting yin poses to work with, to explore that side. So that would be the division into 2 sides of the things. It's always about finding that balance, right? And then there's just the experience and the knowledge that builds over time of which ones work well. To combine poses with more dance-like movements. I personally do, and that's what, when we talk about embodiment coaching as such, not just reduced to EYP, is all about. So embodiment, the way we define it, is really this broad field of various movement practices and various practices that include various dance practices, that include meditation practices, martial arts practices, theater practices, communication practices, breath work. So all this, and probably I didn't mention half of them, come together. The main point being that they're carried out with awareness and intention. So that makes something embodied, as opposed to I go to the gym, for instance, and I work out my body, seeing my body as an object that needs, you know, modeling. I could go to the gym in order to develop a certain quality. And I then approach a certain exercise, for instance, weightlifting, with an awareness, being in my body, present in my body, not just watching a screen of a TV hung up there, but actually, and then with that intention, present in my body, and then the intention of maybe I want to develop some sort of strength or pushing capacity because I want to push something forward in my life, or, you know, or boundaries, like push-ups can be great for practicing boundaries, getting into the solidity of the body. And yeah, any practice can be done. Even yoga can be done in an embodied way and in a non-embodied way. It could be also done to just shape the body, just make it beautiful, just make it look beautiful, taking lots of Instagram pictures, as opposed to really tuning in and doing it with awareness that most yoga teachers, if they're well trained, would encourage, but not everybody necessarily goes there. To connect the breath with the movement, with the awareness of what is it here that I'm building, the awareness of how do I want to be in this, and maybe then like it will calm me, and ideally I'll also make that transfer into my life. But yeah. Okay. Okay, so one more question I'll answer, and then I'm happy to work with you, Vanda, just to let you know already. So there was another question. It just says iPad van Ellen. I don't know. So I guess Ellen. So when not knowing what your body language tells other people, that's basically where we often start. Building self-awareness and awareness of your own body and also of your embodiment. That can include that sort of, what am I actually signaling? What does my body tell the world around me and other people around me, is part of working in an embodied way. So throughout any training that I was part of or that I'm teaching on, it's one of the fundamental pieces. And we use various techniques. It could involve copying exercises where somebody else gets to copy you. So you get a visual sort of feedback of how you move, and that will give you an indication of what you might look like to the outside world, while you might not be aware of that normally, because we don't walk like we walk in front of a mirror. And it gives opportunities to learn about yourself. And I've definitely worked with that throughout the training I did with the Embodied Facilitator course, and it's fascinating what can be revealed. Yeah, quite intimate work as well. And then feedback. I mean, a lot of it can be feedback. How are you perceived? And then entering in a genuine inquiry with yourself. Is that true? Instead of just accepting another's perception of you, to enter into an inquiry, maybe ask good friends, like, how do you perceive me? Or like, it always also depends. And that's the one response we tend to give. It depends. It always depends on the context. Your embodiment is depending on your current situation. Even now, I might come across differently. My body language might be different. My embodiment goes beyond body language, might be different just by the fact of me sitting in front of my computer with a camera facing all of you. That's the situational context. Then I'm German by heritage. So my German conditioning, the cultural kind of influence I've received throughout my life, influences how I show up. And a lot of this can be unconscious until it's brought to the light. And that can happen through doing and engaging in this work. Yeah, but I'll stop with the theory and the questions. Thank you for the interest. I could talk about this endlessly. Vanda, would you love to or like to? Yeah, if Steve, you can unmute her, then yeah, wonderful.
Hello, but
Hello,
it's my
Vanda.
first session, so I don't have idea what to do. But
that is no problem at all. I hope that
okay.
your internet connection is stable, because you froze for a second.
Yeah, I also wonder, but I guess it's okay. I hope so.
I hope so too. Okay, so this is your first session watching. Is it your first session ever working in a coaching context as well, or?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's good to know. So I just want to make a few things clear up front then. You are in charge of yourself, your own body, and your decisions at all times. So please, even though I might suggest things, you're always welcome to say no and not do something that doesn't feel right for you. Yeah, okay. And you can always stop. You can always pause. I'm in service of your process. So
thank you.
Just to make that
sounds
clear.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. So please direct me. Also, if there's something that just doesn't work, because it's like, oh no, it doesn't match what I'm actually looking for, please tell me. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Wonderful. So could you tell me then what you would like to get out of this short session?
Okay. So then I like a man, and I feel all the time I would like to call him. I would like to meet him. And I feel this neediness. Yeah. And I just want to be more aware what is happening in me to not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
before we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Fine.
So before going into any sort of theoretical explanation of what my understanding of neediness is, and I would invite you to join into the embodied exploration of that straight away. So right now, when you think of how you are, when you send these messages and you're going into that behavior, how does that show up in your body? If you could make a shape that expresses that, like with your body. What would you do?
I feel here like some pressure in the chest.
Pressure in the chest, okay.
Yes. Okay, I just check.
Oh, you're breaking off a little bit? Yeah, okay. So
I'm quite unaware what is happening in the body.
You're unaware, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you are, let's say, writing that person and your judgment is, ooh, I'm needy.
Yeah.
You notice any tension in your body?
Yeah, as I said, I feel pressure in the chest.
Okay. So mainly in the chest.
Yeah.
What do you do with your breath?
I hold back the breath. So I'm very rarely breathing. Yeah, holding back.
Okay, you're rarely breathing. All right, okay. So there's a contraction in the chest, almost no breath. Anything you do with your face?
I'm sorry?
Anything you do in your face that you notice? When you think about this, you're...
Maybe this I show you. Maybe this like little bit tight. Eyes.
Tightening.
Like tightening, yeah.
Okay, okay. So like scrunching together, being like, yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. So I tend to teach centering a lot, which is a method to counter a stress response in our body. And in this particular case, I would like to guide you into what I call, or what we call, pleasure centering, which is in Buddhism, you often have two sides of either you try to avoid something that's unpleasant, that you don't want, and that is perceived as a threat to your well-being or whatever, and that is therefore bringing up a stress response. But equally, this can come up when you really, really want something, which is then the grasping, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to visualize again this moment of you texting and you kind of really, really wanting the attention, the responses, and all that. Yeah, can you do that? And then to notice what you do in your body with the breath, maybe a holding of the breath, contracting, maybe the scrunching in the face. And then we're simply going to reverse that. So first of all, I encourage you to feel your bum on the chair, to find that connection to the ground.
Yeah.
Sit upright in a way that doesn't require much effort to keep you upright. Yeah. And then relax your belly, your whole belly. Yeah. Relax your chest. Relax your jaw. And imagine you can melt, like softening all the muscles in your face as well. And then if you can, open your eyes, but keep your gaze very soft. Yeah? Okay. And then bring to mind once again this response that you're really, really seeking. You want this. So you've texted a man and you're really waiting for his response. You want the attention. Did doing what we just did change anything about how that is now, bringing that to mind?
Yeah, I feel kind of more centered. Yeah, I don't feel so much to wanting go out for myself. I mean, I don't feel so strong to reach him.
Yeah. So by relaxing your body and reversing what happens in your body when you go into the what you call neediness, you're like I would now call it a grasping, or like a wanting, a very strong wanting. It could be like a piece of chocolate, right? It could be like, I really want this.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
There's something in your body, and we can start there. Instead of telling yourself, I'm needy, I'm needy, I'm needy, and that not being good, and almost making the pressure on yourself much, much stronger through that, which will then be way more difficult to change anything about this. We can start at the level of the body and relaxing, first of all the things that we do when this wanting comes in. So starting with the relaxation, connecting to the ground, relaxing your stomach, relaxing your breathing, allowing your breath to flow deeply and fully, and relaxing your face. Maybe even with a sigh. Can already shift.
Yeah, I can see it helps.
So whenever you're in a moment that you catch yourself really, really like wanting that, this is something you could do. And that might take out the what you called now neediness. And then I want to leave you with a little thought that, for instance, you say neediness, but I would also argue that there's a need, an underlying need under that, right? And the difference can be that a need we perceive as a legitimate thing that we can ask for. Whereas neediness, there's a judgment on it that we're not supposed to want this, we're not allowed to get it, we're not allowed to. There's a lot of like, it comes more from the place of also, I'm not in my center. I'm actually falling out to the front or wherever it is. And we could also explore that a little more if we had more time. But there's a sense of I'm off center. That's where I'm coming from. When I return back to center, maybe you can look at what is the underlying need. And then we can start from there to look at maybe if the other person cannot meet that, maybe they're not the person for you. But instead of judging yourself or going into, neediness, and I'm needy, returning to that. Is that?
Yeah, I can see the self-judgment for sure.
Mm-hmm. So would this be helpful for you to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can see more centered. And I also went there what you say, that maybe I have the need, but it's not him.
Yeah. And there's one more thing. Of course,
then it's coming up some other layer, but it's other stuff.
Yes. And therefore, I would like to add one more thing, which is the self-care pose we do. If you want to do this with me, just come up a bit. You can do it sitting, you can do it standing. Basically wrapping your arms around you as if you're hugging yourself. It can be on the shoulder and around your side here, around your ribs, your cage. And then you can even bring the head down a little bit as if you're really holding yourself, embracing yourself. If you're taking care of yourself. And how is that? Is that something familiar for you?
I became a little bit restless, but
Restless. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Maybe there's something where this could be useful. Could this be useful in your life anywhere? To hug yourself as if you were hugging a dear friend, a loved one.
Yeah, I see some resistance in it.
Okay. So my suggestion, because we have a little bit of a limited time frame today, is to take this with you and maybe look at if you can stay there, because the resistance sometimes comes up if it's unfamiliar. It's maybe something you've never learned or never done. It might also point to other things, but if you're curious to explore this, maybe just revisit this on a possibly daily basis, just for a minute, and see if you can maybe in this, while holding yourself, also ask like, what is it that I need? While holding yourself.
Okay, it's a good
It's a bit
suggestion. I
more-
will try.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very curious if that will shift something. And also, as a second suggestion, maybe going into the centering. So whenever you notice yourself going into the, I really, really want this, to come back a bit, relax, breathe deeply, and relax your face. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so these are just small things we can do. And they're, yeah.
It was good
angles.
this reversing that position, and yeah, not to be tight and relaxing. It helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My suspicion is that there might be deeper, like maybe even emotions underneath, and I don't really want to go into that in this context right now.
Sure,
we're public, so
yeah.
I just want to respect that for you as well. So I'm staying a little bit more on the surface, but I hope that this will give you first ideas of how to maybe work with that.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you. I really wanted to try out a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
So let's see in the chat. Any questions, any observations you had about this process? Please no feedback to Vanda directly, but just about looking at the process. And you can say thank you. But So just to give a few pointers, as a second track as well of what we just did. When it is about neediness, there's a whole reframe that is possible to do, but I think it would require a little bit more time, and it might tap into like deeper beliefs about oneself. So the belief systems that we could look at and address in this, I think would require a longer session. And I don't really want to go there in a public container like this. So the initial things for me that seemed important were coming back from the embodiment that neediness comes with, which is the grasping. Grasping is like really needing, wanting something. It's just like, and that can go as strong as an addictive trait, for instance, like even being addicted to chocolate. It could be anything like that. I really, really need something right now. And there's a particular, instead of seeking something from another. And now there was an interesting piece that there was a lot of resistance. And once again, that might tap into a lot more layers of like what would be lying underneath that. And if it was maybe an hour-long session, I would go down that path of looking at what lies under the resistance to self-care, and then work with that and follow that thread. So just as a little bit of context here. Thank you. Yeah, Lisbeth, just sharing, looking differently at my own neediness. It is more about what I need. Yeah, neediness as well, just to say that once again, usually comes from a need not having been met for an extended period of time. So it is a need for something that exists. And our needs might vary. Everyone has different needs. And of course, we could look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that we have a need for shelter, but we have a need for safety, we have a need for emotional safety, emotional like recognition, various things and various needs that we want met in our lives. And if they aren't being met for an extended period of time, denied, whatever, it can turn into neediness. And especially if there's a sense of like an inner emptiness, or like something that we're not able to give ourselves, but we need it from the outside. So, but reframing that and looking at, instead of judging something as needy, because it can also just be a method of calling ourselves or being called by another as needy, to create distance. To, if another, for instance, would call you needy, it might just be a mechanism to create distance because they cannot meet your need. So that's an interesting one to look at and maybe to distinguish as well. And even if somebody cannot meet meet your need. It doesn't need to mean you're needy. That's the point I want to make. So, and it's totally valid. You know, we don't all need to meet each other's needs, and cannot possibly, but then it doesn't necessarily mean that we're needy. And yet it can also just stem from that extended period of time of like going through the desert and like, we really need water. And then we become needy and we're really like, oh, water, water, water. And this could be anything, right? So that's kind of my take on that. As this can go very deep, I'm wondering how far to go in case it ends up going too deep. Right. Yeah, this is always like where the threshold of coaching and therapy also comes in. Like it's a sort of determining if trauma, for instance, comes to the surface, or if there's a sense of their underlying other things that need addressing, for instance, then this will be maybe another domain and maybe another context to work on. But in another bit more extended coaching session, I would have definitely gone a bit deeper. And if emotions arise, it's also okay. Yeah. Okay. So we had another volunteer for a coaching session, and I think we have time to do that. So I hear the name says Fun Tran. I think you were working with focus instead of being scattered, a relaxed focus instead of squeezing hard focus. Would you like to do that live? Is that?
It appears that they've, I can't find them. Are you still here, Banchan? Oh, I've changed name. Okay. Yeah, there we go. I will find them.
Okay. Okay. Kuyen. Right. Great. And Bettina, you raised your hand also for volunteering, or do you have a question? Maybe both. Okay. Is it a short question you can put in the chat that I can address after? Is that okay? Because then I'm going to work with Kuyen. Is that the way I pronounce your name correctly? Kuyen?
Yes. Hi, Christina.
Okay. Hi, Kuyen. Nice to meet you. So you want to work on focus, yeah?
Yes.
Great. And you followed what we just did. So just to ask you and confirm, who's in charge of the session then?
I am in charge.
Okay, great. Thank you. So anytime you can say stop or change direction or whatever it is that will serve you the most. So just share with me, what is it you really want to achieve? You already said it in your text, but tell me again in a focused way. What do you want to get at?
I want to lean into focus better.
Okay.
Instead of scattered.
Okay, so you find yourself normally a bit scattered? And then
yeah, I find it, it's like it takes a while to get into things, and before that it's just a lot of scattering. And I want to learn to get into that more. Yeah.
Okay. So I would suggest to work with an EYP pose for this as well, which is the entering in pose. Yeah. So you want to get up with me. Are you familiar with the pose?
This, right?
Oh.
This is the pose. I saw it yesterday.
Entering in. Okay, great. Yes, now I can hear you. There was a little delay.
Yeah. This is the pose I saw it yesterday.
Yes, exactly. So if you want to come into that pose, the legs are on one line, like a warrior position, like kind of the heels are on one line. And then the arms are kind of streamlined. I like it, the metaphor, if it's like an icebreaker, that's like really streamlined. And 60% at least of weight is on the front foot. Okay, and then look ahead in front of you. You don't need to look at the screen right now. And that's the one thing you're focused at right now. That's the direction you're going. Yeah. So is this is what you say is not familiar to you?
Yes.
Okay.
It is not that. I would like to be more familiar with this.
Okay. So if you could now adjust this pose to look more like what you normally do in your life. If you could show me in your body what your scattering looks like from here. What would shift in your pose? You would come back with the arms, maybe even lean back. Yeah.
I pull back a bit, and my arms are not forward that much, and my weight is more on my
back leg.
The leg behind. So
right.
The back leg. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it's not only.
Like this.
Yeah. So is the word. So for me, when I do this, when I join you in the pose, for me, this I wouldn't call this scattered. For me, this would almost be like a more of a receiving, or maybe even a defensive, or retreating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. This feels to me like I'm not in it yet. If I want to go with my body, usually it will be this and then lean into this. Okay. What ends up happening is more like there's a bit of wobbliness as I enter. So the entering is not straight; it's a little bit wobbly.
Okay, so kind of the snaky movements. Okay, so can we do one thing together? Yeah. You can stand just stably. You can face the camera as well. And I want you to do a little fire exercise with me. So put one hand in front of you, and then the other one will chop onto here, like this. This. Doesn't matter which hand goes into which one. This. It's this. And then I want you to add something, which is it's not this. Wow. So anything else that's around you right now doesn't matter. It's not this. It's this. It's only this. Go with me. This, not this. 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 Okay. Is this familiar?
No. I'm a little bit ashamed to say that, but no.
Okay. So there's some shame coming up to go there.
Yeah, it's like reluctant to admit.
So pardon?
It should be, but reluctance to admit it.
Okay. So what makes this difficult? The going this and not this.
It's I mean, now that I do it, it doesn't feel as difficult. It's unfamiliar.
Okay. Unfamiliar means it can be practiced, but is that something you would like to allow yourself to do more of?
Right. Thank you. At this point, something came up to me. It's, and I'm wondering if it has to do with this focus. Is that the way that I have been able to accomplish things in the past has been doing a lot of things and working on them simultaneously, and then eventually something finished and something finished and something finished. So they are more like plant seed in the garden and things grow, and then it just somehow there's a part of me that wants to explore this different way of doing of this and not this.
Okay, and so that So there's a habitual way of doing things, which is more maybe scattered. And I might call that, in a certain model, I might call that air. So it's like a lot of these things, like, oh, look over there and look over there, and I'm doing this and I'm doing all these things, but maybe I'm not going to finish one thing. Yeah. So what I want to encourage here is to bring a bit more determination, a bit more focus. And this is what I would put under like fire. And that's why like to cultivate or to familiarize yourself with this mode of being could be helpful. So maybe shake it out for a moment if you want to do this with me. if you want to shake for a moment, shake this off. Feel your body a bit, relax the kind of what we just did. Yeah, and then let's do this once again. Let's maybe even visualize something that you want to get done. One thing you want, like it could be a project, it could be, and it's all about that one project, this. And anything else that's a distraction, any other project is not. Let's do this again and see if you can turn up the volume a little bit, the intensity of doing it. So it's this, not this. And so you can also, if you want to speak in your native tongue, I don't know if it's English or it helps sometimes. Say it in your native language as well. Okay, so let's go this, not this. Das, nicht das.
And not this.
This, not this. This, not this. This.
This, not this.
Okay. Okay. And let's go again into the entering in.
Just a quick note is that I do find that this not this movement, I feel it could have more determination. So this is really a slack. It's not a nice bye thing. It's a swipe. It's a forceful.
The clarity. It's like a sword. You're cutting here and you're cutting everything else away. It's this and it's not this. You can even imagine like this is like a blade. This, not this. And then bringing in that sharpness and that focus. And then even with the entering in pose, if you want to do that again, you can see if you can bring in the same determination into this pose. It's the same as the this. It's like 1 point ahead of you. And really feel almost like you're pushing up your back leg. You're ready to kind of break the ice, move forward. Like it's really, just even in that pose, there's a readiness. You have almost like a bit of a push in the back leg. It's going really one direction there. You can even use one finger only and point to that one thing. And don't retreat. Don't come back for now. Stay in the front. It's like a sustaining it. Right, so sustaining focus instead of going only this and then I'm coming out again.
Yeah, that's a good point. I noticed that I have a tendency to come back.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a very good insight. Yeah, I noticed that I have a tendency to come back. And then the second one, I wonder if it's more physical or is it more psychological, that I don't feel a strong push from the back leg.
Is there a way you can make that push stronger? What happens when you push stronger with your back leg? And keep the arms right in front of you. And stay there. The fingers are together. It's one line. It's like a blade still. One focus. And really bring that weight into the front foot and the pushing feeling into the back leg. And you're focusing on one point. And that's the one thing you're going to focus on for one project.
I noticed that it doesn't feel like a lot of support from the back leg.
Not a lot of support. Okay.
It feels that way. So I had to force myself to push with the back leg, and it feels quite unnatural.
Okay. Is there a way that you could use this maybe as a practice to familiarize yourself with the essence of that? That would be one suggestion I have. Oh, you're breaking up.
I will do that. Yeah, can you hear me?
And yes.
Can you
if
hear
you want
me?
to come back to the If you want to come back to the screen, let's.
Yeah.
If you want to, you can come back to the screen if you want. It's a bit of a tricky connection.
Thank you.
No problem. Since this is not something we would do if you're working on a project necessarily, or if you're talking to somebody and you find yourself being distracted or scattered and you want to focus. I would also like to offer you a little kind of micro expression of that. So which direction is focus for you?
Straight.
Straight, forward. Yeah. So if you find yourself thinking about all sorts of other things, what might possibly happen is what you described as this, it's like there's a swaying, yeah? Which happened when we did that pose initially. There's a bit of this everywhere and maybe like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's like dancing, which I do.
Okay, yeah, beautiful. But sometimes in the dancing, you also have the staccato, right? The kind of more like linear. So what you can do either is just doing this. Okay, I'm focusing now. And what helps me sometimes is also just bringing the hands together and going there and focusing on the tips of my fingers, possibly to go, instead of going here with my entire expression of my body and being all flow, to bring really like, and to have that idea of a blade in my hands. It's like this. And sometimes it's just the hand can be here, and bringing that little bit of forward leaning into the body. That could be like a, I'm actually bringing in onto here. Is that in any way useful? Do you think that could help you?
This is, I find this and not this very helpful as an entryway, because it needs that level of intensity first as a shot, and then now this is a practice. This is the micro practice. So both are.
Okay, so yeah, maybe as a practice, you could bring in the entering in, but even more so the this, not this, to familiarize yourself. And maybe even before you start working, it could be like all right, like almost like lighting that little bit of fire inside. Accessing this sort of like, and
I feel that has been something that I work on. So I'm very glad that we had this chance.
Okay, great. So what are you going to do taking forward what we just did now?
I will
tomorrow.
practice this, and
You're
I'm not
going to
do
practice this?
practice. Oh well.
Okay.
I'm gonna skip other practice to do just this.
Okay, great. Yeah, the more we develop certain qualities, and if you say you're a dancer and your body moves a lot in these spaces, it can be more difficult because what you've been cultivating is one way of being. So re-practicing, retraining.
Yes. I agree. Because I've been doing dancing and contact improvisation, so it's like this, and then this is a slightly different mode, and I know this is important, and I want to cultivate this.
Absolutely, I totally resonate. I mean, for me, I had too much of this, so contact improvisation actually helped me to find the opposite, and for you it might be the other way around. You have a lot of this, so maybe finding this. And I think that maybe some other idea that you could take into your daily life as well is that whenever you walk anywhere, do you ever walk anywhere? Do you walk to like wherever you done?
Not right now, but yes, I do.
Okay. Focus on the push of your back foot and like where you're going as a clear direction. So bringing a little bit of that entering into your walking. That would be a suggestion.
Brilliant. I find that helpful. Like walking is usually a release activity for me. Like, I walk for leisure, and so this, I think what makes it difficult is that it's now it has an intentionality to it.
Yes.
So it's unusual to my habits, and so it has to be slowly cultivated.
You could also do any other task in your life with a bit more of that kind of like, I'm doing this. But walking is generally a nice one to bring that in without needing to put aside time for anything else, kind of. So just if you want that as an addition, otherwise stick with the this, not this, and entering in.
Okay, great. Thank you. Really, really helpful ideas and practice. Thank you so much. This is so great.
Thank you,
I just wanted
Korea.
to say that something you said yesterday was very impactful for me. Is at the intimacy session where you said that not all needs should be met by one person, and the important thing is to redirect it. And in order to redirect, we got to resource in ourselves, and I find that very helpful. It is the redirecting and resourcing that is most important, I think. So thank you for
Thank you, Korean, and thank you for showing up here with courage to be in front of all of us.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you.
is great. Thank you.
All right. So there was a question Bettina still had. I wonder, did she type it? Oh, also a few comments in the chat. Let me see. I was wondering if I feel the same way with many things in my life. Being able to do everything. Yeah, the wish, I want to get it all done. I want to do everything. But actually, it's been scientifically proven that we're delivering worse work when we try to multitask, because our focus on like so many different things actually makes us perform much worse at all of them. So if we can actually dedicate time to this and then finish it, and then the next, it allows us to do a better job. I'm terrible at that too. But we work a lot with the 4 elements model in these embodiment trainings, and I find these super helpful. And fire is the one that can help you develop this forward, one focus, drive, determination. And mostly the scatteredness and I want everything can be a bit of air. So maybe coming down, feeling the ground, and then bringing in that one focus. I'm just going to read the comments we have here before we wrap up. There are a few questions I unfortunately won't come to anymore. But yeah.
Yeah, just a lot of positive comments. Helpful, wasn't it? A lot of people resonate with it, I think.
Okay, there's a comment about the why do we say somebody is in charge of the session? And I just want to comment on it briefly. It's not about swapping roles in terms of allowing the other to become the coach or the therapist, but it's about enabling consent and giving a certain degree of power and sovereignty. So the in charge of means you're in charge of your own body, and to encourage boundaries and the ability to say no, because there's a natural sort of hierarchy that can emerge between a therapist, a coach, a teacher, and that might lead to the student, the client, being much more compliant and maybe crossing some boundaries. So to say you're in charge means actually you can say no, and to encourage that to create safety for the container. That is the logic behind that, just to comment on that. So, yeah. Okay. I didn't see your comment in the chat, Bettina. Unfortunately, I think we're moving into the break soon. If you want to stick around here, I don't know if Steve is going to open the breakout rooms, then I'm happy to answer your question. Otherwise, thank you again, Kriyan, and everyone for also witnessing. And yeah.
Yeah, so I'll sort of wrap things. Yes, I'll wrap things here, and then if there's anything else, then I might open some breakout rooms again for those people who want a little bit longer after this session and see that. So I just saw something else here. Oh, replays. So replays, I'll put the link down there in the chat as well. So if you want to check out the replay, it is at eyptraining.online/replay. So that's where you can find replays of these sessions if you would like to check that out. in terms of everything else. Well, first, thank you again, Christina. Another top couple coaching demo sessions, and having that question answer at the start also helpful. So I'll come back to you at the end again for another top tip. You've had 3 top tips on this event so far. So, I mean, this is obviously just the 3rd top tip. So in terms of if anyone did have anything they want to take away from this session, feel free to drop that in the chat. So it's useful to sort of get that clarity around it. And if you would like to check out some more of, so entering pose there, for example, is part of EYP, which has 26 non-athletic poses. They're about shifting states. So if anyone would like to get EYP either personally, or if you're a coach, or if you work with groups, you can do so over, we've got the special running until Monday. So that's at half price or less than half price. And then after that, it's going to double again, and we won't sort of offer it at that until sort of a year away. So that's just for a short time that we're offering that over this coaching weekend, because we're using it so much, really. I've also dropped in the chat some examples or all the poses there. So as you see, change isn't always easy, but it's working with the body can be the quickest and most effective way to facilitate that change. So in terms of that, here, I'll give you a little quick share of that product. Excuse me. So yeah, there are the 3 different versions of it. So the coach's version comes with using it safely with clients, has a lot of case studies and demos, and some of the good stuff as well. Some of the best stuff, I think, is the fact that you have monthly community calls to sort of tune in with other teachers and have a private Facebook group to discuss stuff. For example, like Christina mentioned her martial arts background, and with entering pose, you might use like a sword instead to get that sort of sense. You might get that from other teachers in the community, like you practice with a stick or a sword doing entering, you get more of a sense. So being within the community gives you lots of other ideas and props and things that you can talk with each other and learn about doing it differently. So when does it start? I'm guessing the replays are available now at the moment. The course itself is an evergreen course, so it's available forever. So many takeaways. So yeah, in terms of coming up next, we've got a bit of a break, and then tonight, if you would like to upgrade, I'm going to answer questions as I'm going. If you'd like to upgrade, support at Embodiment Unlimited, embodimentunlimited.com. Agatha's there, and she can help you with any questions. She's the absolute whiz. So yeah, in terms of managing yourself, so coaches, and it can be used with everyday people. Also just stuff like centering, which Christina's done earlier today. You can type in ABC centering on YouTube, for example, and see some examples of that. Anything else? I think that's about it. I should shut up. So I'll give you the chance to, we'll come back to Christina, and then I'll give you the chance to drop out if you'd like to drop out, or hang around and I'll open up breakout rooms for about 10 minutes. So Christina, any last top things you want to tell anyone before they disappear until, let me tell you, it is at, 5 p.m. today. So in 5 hours, there'll be a session with Patricia, and she'll be looking at using coaching in sort of around relational context as well, and then there'll be another watch party later as well with Daniela. So that's in 5 hours time. You can rejoin us if you would like to do that, but enjoy a break. And Christina, over to you for a final word before some breakout rooms.
I think this time it's all about practice, and anything can be achieved by familiarizing yourself through doing it regularly. And the best and strongest results come from just practice, ideally on a daily basis. Yeah. Yeah, I see Korean practicing. I love it. Yeah, thank you everyone so much for being here.
Thanks everyone. Thanks Christina. It's funny, we always joke on EFC and related embodiment courses, there's 2 answers for everything. It's either practice or it depends. And then once you delve into that it depends, the answer ends up being practice. So yeah, that's really the only answer, as Christina said there. All right, so I'll give people a minute if you would like to drop out and not join the breakout rooms, and I'll create them now for anyone who wants to have a little bit of a chat, sum up what you've learned today and yesterday, sort of meet a couple people. We'll keep those open till 10 past.
Also, I've responded in the chat, Bettina, but yes, it can be used for self-monitoring. But it helps to notice the things we might not be aware of, because it's a deviation we do based on our habitual embodiment. And then sometimes even I still, after years of doing this, I can see my fingers curl up in certain poses that are supposed to be down and these things, and I don't even pick it up myself. So it's good to regularly have like somebody else to give feedback on, but it's a self-inquiry process.
On that as well, something useful is you may even like film yourself or do something like that. Like the EYP product, for example, comes with a whole book that's like 100 pages, which goes very into detail on every specific thing. You can almost like mark yourself, how is like my eyes, how is my intention, how is my fingertips, how is this? You can use that to sort of monitor yourself if for whatever reason you can't find anyone to work with. Often if you're in the community, then people are quite happy to sort of help each other, join little small groups. So the book is part of the EYP products. It's not a separate book, but it's for if you're a teacher or a trainer or a coach in the product, you get that. All right, breakout rooms. Let's recreate these. We've got 40 odd people. So
thank you, Steve. Bye.
Thanks, Christina. Catch you. Have a good night. And if you happen to be in a room by yourself, give it a sec and I'll rearrange things. All right, so I'll leave them open for let's go a little bit after 10 past, so give you a warning. But yeah, here we go. Yeah, you feel a bit overwhelmed by the book. Yeah, there's so much in it. Just take it gently, look at it piece by piece because it's so informational. All right, here's some rooms.